Will you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, can I get a roll call, please?
Okay, Council President Perez,
Here.
Councilmember Corman,
Here.
Councilmember Prince,
Here.
Councilmember McGurven,
Here.
Councilmember O'Halloran,
Here.
Councilmember Van.
Here.
Roll call, Mr. Mayor, all present.
Okay, first up, we have a proclamation. It's
Okay.
National Mentoring Month.
Proclamation, whereas our success as a community depends on helping every child succeed in school and reach their full potential in life, and we realize that young people need a solid foundation of support to help them become well-educated, confident, and productive citizens. And whereas Communities in Schools is the only dropout prevention program in the nation proven to increase graduation rates, and this research shows that mentoring has beneficial and long-term effects on youth by increasing their chances of high school graduation and college attendance and decreasing the likelihood of substance abuse and other risky behaviors. And whereas hundreds of Renton's children are in need of a caring adult mentor in their lives, and closing this mentoring gap will require more investment, partnerships, and volunteers ready to make a difference in a child's life. And whereas National Mentoring Month is an opportunity to raise public awareness of the importance of mentoring, recognize the dedicated individuals who serve as mentors, and encourage more citizens to help build a brighter future for Renton's youth through mentoring. And whereas the core values of Community and Schools of Renton-Tukwila are equity, opportunity, and collaboration, and they are in schools to remove barriers, create opportunities, and help kids stay in school. Now, therefore, I, Armando Pavoni, Mayor of the City of Renton, do hereby proclaim January 2020 to be National Mentoring Month in the City of Renton, in tribute to the many dedicated individuals who volunteer their time, compassion, and talents to mentor young people, and I encourage all citizens to join me in this special observance and to consider giving back to our community as mentors. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Renton to be affixed this 13th day of January 2020, signed Armando Pavoni, Mayor of the City of Renton.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Perez.
I move the proclamation to be adopted as read.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt the proclamation as read. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. I'd like to call up Kathy Ulrich to accept the proclamation.
Thank you. Thank you so much, City of Renton. Thank you, City Council. Thank you, Mayor Pavoni. The Communities in Schools mentoring program does help at-risk students develop a consistent and caring relationship with a caring adult to help develop their potential through academic success. Communities in Schools has developed a mentor committee to help us examine and define this program's goals so that we may not only grow our program, but also center students of color and to gain more mentors of color. And we look forward to reporting back to the city the findings of this committee once they are completed. We can't do this alone. We need the community's support. So, of course, you can look for Communities in Schools of Renton and Mentor Program on the internet, and you will find more about our program and how you too can be involved. But most importantly, we have deep gratitude for our Mayor Pavoni, who has been a mentor with Communities in Schools for many years. Thank you so much for your time and energy for the children in our community, and thank you, City Council.
Thank you very much. Yes, I've been a mentor for the last, I believe it's been 7 years, and it's a wonderful experience. And my favorite story about mentoring is my wife was a mentor, it was about 10 years ago, and she had the same girl for 5 years, and she really didn't think she was making any kind of headway with this girl. And so the girl transferred out of the school district when she went into high school, and she ended up going out of the district, and so they lost touch. And 4 years later, we, in the mail, received invitations to her graduation at Garfield. So it was fantastic, and we got to go and watch her graduate, and she really did make an impact on her life. So it's really an important program. I've had I get more out of it than I'm sure even my mentee gets out of it. So I encourage all of our council members to be mentors if you have time. So, and anybody out in the public also. Okay, next up, thank you very much. Next up, we have a public meeting. I'd like to bring Angie up.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My name is Angie Mathias, and I'm here this evening to do a presentation regarding the Graves annexation as proposed. So annexations are a very long process. They take a long time. And as you can see, we are just at the very beginning of this process. The petitioner has submitted a 10% petition, and we are now holding a public meeting with you at council. If you so authorize, then they would begin to circulate a 60% petition, and those percentage references are to the assessed valuation of the area. So they have submitted a petition that represents 10% of the total assessed value of that annexation area. And if, in order for the annexation to proceed, they would have to submit one that represented 60% of the assessed valuation. So the purpose this evening is we're required by state law to hold this public meeting at which you can accept, reject, or geographically modify this proposed annexation. If you do accept the proposed annexation, you would then authorize circulation of that 60% direct petition to annex. So this annexation is in the East Plateau Community Planning Area, and you can see it's up there towards the northern portion of that planning area. It's pretty much central. So it's at the eastern portion of our city limits, as I already said, in the East Plateau Community Planning Area. It's about 21.4 acres in size. The current uses are single-family, vacant, and the Lord of Life Lutheran Church is also located within the area. The northern boundary is southeast 128th. We call that northeast 4th and Renton, but that's the existing boundary in King County. East is 162nd Avenue Southeast. To the south are parcel lines in southeast 130th Street, and then to the west is 158th Avenue Southeast. So this is an aerial of the potential annexation. You can see here is the Lord of Life Lutheran Church, and it abuts city limits here at the our eastern limits. Existing conditions: there are no steep or regulated slopes within the annexation area, or streams or wetlands. And in the wetlands, there's none even in close proximity to the area. Public services: the area is currently served by Renton Regional Fire Authority. That would not change upon annexation. The utilities: water is provided by Water District 90. That also would not change upon annexation. It is also served by Renton Sewer Utility. So if folks did elect to connect to sewer, that's who they would connect with. That is not a change as well. We currently serve that area. The school district is the Issaquah School District, and that would not change if the area were to annex. Currently in King County, they are designated as urban residential medium that allows for a range between 4 and 12 dwelling units per acre for their zoning, and King County has zoned this area R4. It is designated in our comprehensive plan as residential low density. That allows for a range of either resource conservation zone, which allows for 1 dwelling unit per 10 acres, R1 or R4 zoning, so 4 dwelling units per acre. In 2007, we pre-zoned this area R4, and so that a zoning would become effective if the area were to annex. So I always review our comprehensive plan policies and how they relate to annexations. One of our goals is that we promote annexation where and when it is in our best interest. Another policy refers to supporting annexations where infrastructure and services allow for urban densities, and it would consolidate service providers or facilitate the efficient delivery of services. As stated, it already is ready to be served by utilities, and so that makes this appropriate. And then we always consider the fiscal impacts, and we will look at that in a moment. We also review the Boundary Review Board objectives. If they successfully submit a 60% petition and you so authorize, we would then submit that to the King County Boundary Review Board. So we try to look at these and make sure this is something that they would believe that is a logical extension of our boundaries. So the relevant ones are that it uses physical boundaries, including bodies of water, highways, and land contours. This all uses right-of-way and parcel lines, which are perfectly legitimate physical boundaries. To prevent abnormally irregular boundaries. This is almost a perfect rectangle, so it's very regular. Create and preserve logical service areas. Those are already agreed to and would be unchanged upon annexation. And the annexation is of an unincorporated area to an area that is urban in character, and Renton is an urban city. So the fiscal analysis, the current conditions are there an estimated 15 dwelling units within the annexation area and an estimated 36 residents. We always try to anticipate what might happen in the 10-year horizon. It's estimated that there's the capacity to potentially accommodate an additional 12 or additional 10 dwelling units with an estimated 24 additional residents. We assume that costs increase at 3.5% annually and that revenue is limited to 2.5% annually, and that's also limited to just sales tax, utility tax, and the franchise fee with that inherent deficit, as we're all aware of. So the fiscal analysis, to the operating fund, existing revenues are at about $21,000 with costs at about $21,000, just a short, small difference there. By year 10, the revenues would be about $38,000 with the costs at about $40,000, so slight deficit. Capital enterprise funds to the revenue would be about $6,000 with the cost at about $5,000, and revenue by year 10 at about $13,000 and $12,000 for costs. A lot of the reason for the cost difference by year 10 is all the existing right-of-way. Right-of-way is very expensive for us to maintain, and this annexation is bringing in Northeast 4th and a lot of streets with it. And so we try to do that. We like people to be able to access to Renton from a Renton road as much as we can. This one happens to bring in a lot of right-of-way. So I always circulate, once we receive a 10% petition, we circulate it to all the different departments representing the city, different city functions, and they review the annexation and make any comments about concerns that they have. All departments indicated that this proposed annexation is a logical extension of their services and did not have any concerns as proposed. In conclusion, this proposed annexation is in the best interest and general welfare of the city. It represents a logical extension of our services. It's consistent with our own city policies, and it's consistent with the Boundary Review Board policies and criteria. So the administration recommends that you all authorize circulation of a 60% direct petition to annex, specifying that property owners accept the city zoning, as well as assume their proportional share of the city's existing and bonded indebtedness. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions from council at this time? Nope. Okay, we do have some people signed up that would like to comment about the annexation. When I call your name, please step up to the podium and give us your name and city of residence, and you have 5 minutes on the timer there. So the first up is Boyd Spear.
My name is Boyd, and the last name is Spear. I live in unincorporated Renton. I don't want to have any part of being in the city. We moved into unincorporated King County for a reason. We didn't want to be in a, tight rural environment. I drive a commercial vehicle. I bring it home, park it in front of the house, and City of Renton does not allow that. Doesn't allow commercial vehicles parked overnight. I'm an emergency services provider. I'm required by my employer to have the commercial vehicle at home. I have 187 feet of frontage, and I don't know what the current cost of sewer, but my anticipation would be it would cost me $45,000 for the sewer line to go in front of the property that I don't need. I'm on a septic system that is successful. It's not having any problems. And if you go drive by where the sewer is for the city, down there on Oaksdale or Montz Road, whatever you want to refer to it as down there, it reeks so bad when you drive by on the freeway, you can't hardly even breathe. Or when you drive on Grady Way, you can't hardly even breathe. It smells so bad. If my sewer system smelled as bad as you guys' treatment facility, they'd condemn it. But the city has been getting away with this for years and years and years, and probably has no intention of making any changes to their sewer system. Why would I want to give them $45,000 and participate in a monthly expense to subsidize something that should be condemned? I mean, how is it that you can contaminate the air so bad that we can't hardly breathe to drive by your facility, and you somehow think that's okay? And my system that causes nobody any harm isn't going to be okay once you annex in. I have no need, desire, want, or anything to have anything to do with the city or the increases to my taxes. I just paid $2,200 for my half taxes to the county, and I'm sure that instead of being $4,000 a year to the county, the city would probably charge me maybe $5,000 or $6,000. Oh, and what's the purpose? What do I gain? I lose. I lose my ability to park my commercial vehicle. I lose $45,000 of money that I really don't have and can't afford. There are no benefits to me. I have no, and they think, well, the other residents want this. No, it isn't the residents want it, it's the developers. You know what the developers offer us? They take the assessed tax value of your property, not the home, just the property, and that's what they offer you. They're being hostile toward the residents. They don't offer you anywhere near what face value of your property is. They just offer you just the land and nothing for your home. And we're supposed to embrace this for what? We stand no benefit whatsoever by having anything to do with the city. And that's basically where it is. We overwhelmingly voted down annexation when it was put to the vote. And so what has the city done? They've taken little chunks, little bits and chunks, and just they can't take no for an answer. And why isn't no a legitimate answer? Well, the city doesn't believe in taking no for an answer. And it's the little guys like me that get priced out and then just get, well, if you can't afford it, move. Well, why? We were there first. Why is it that we need to get squeezed out? And I can assure you, it isn't the property owners that want this. It's the developers that are just trying to take advantage of us. That's all I really have to say.
Thank you, sir. Next is Larry, and I cannot read the last name. It starts with an S. Yes, sir.
I'm gonna have to collect myself. My voice is not worth a shit. Anyway, I've lived in our home since 1977. I've never had a problem with septic tank. And there's no way in hell I can hook up what you guys are trying to perform, because my septic tank is on the back side of my house, and I'd have to dig down about 10 feet, tear up my whole backyard under the fence, and 10 feet or so back in the bank to hook into your system. So I don't want your system, and my taxes are higher than hell now. And so we gotta make 2 payments a year to keep up with that. And before we could make it in one, but we're not people that spend a lot of money foolishly. We take care of our home and our yard. I had a seizure in 2014, so it kind of put me out of working in the yard as much, because I could put 14 hours a day out there. Now I gotta cut my time back because of that. But is your system and your taxes gonna be higher than King County?
Mr. Mayor?
Anybody answer that question?
Mr. Corman.
And do you have to hook up to that sewer?
Yeah,
There's no way in hell I can hook up
Yeah,
to
may-
it.
I would like opportunity. to-
Okay, let's go
Yeah.
ahead and let you finish, and then once you're finished, we'll answer questions. Once you're done.
Can I get a copy of this, what we're saying here afterwards, so I can take it to my neighbors that's got the new homes on the other side of my street?
Yeah, the meeting will be online, yes. You'll be able to find it online.
And
They're all on septic tank too, but they're fairly new homes. I'm pretty sure they're way back off the road, so it costs a fortune to tie into that septic tank, into that sewer system.
Okay.
But what's in it for me? That's what I wanna know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you finished, sir? We'll have, Mr. Corman speak, okay?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I did not mean to interrupt you. I did want to see if I can help a little bit, and I do not want to be dismissive of your passion around this. I mean, clearly you have some strong opinions and concerns, but I think I can help you with some answers to your questions. So, the previous speaker also mentioned about the sewer and the septic system. So, I want to give you absolute assurance that if you live on a home that has a septic system and sewer is extended past your home, you do not have to hook up to the sewer. It's available if your septic were to ever fail and King County were to ever come out and say you've got to fix this. You would then be allowed to hook up. And at the time that you did decide to hook up, then you would be assessed fees for the use of the sewer and for it going in. But I can tell you, not only as a council member for 26 years that's overseen this policy, but I will also say, as someone who I bought my first home here in Renton 35 years ago, and for the first half of the time I lived in the house, we had a sewer right next door to the house, but I lived on a septic system. And it wasn't until my family got so big I wanted to add on and put some extra bathrooms on the house that I was glad there was a sewer close by, because I could actually hook up to the sewer at my option at the time. And I own a rental house in Renton that is on a septic system, and it's got a sewer going right down the street. And like you, I'm very happy with the way the septic system's functioning, and there's no requirement that I hook up to the sewer. So we don't make it a requirement. I personally wouldn't want to change that. I'd be impacted personally if we did change that and have to hook up. And I agree, a good septic system is a relief on the metro system. So there's nothing wrong with septic systems. And then, while I can't answer with complete authority over the taxes, I will say that generally we see people's taxes when they move from the county to incorporated Renton either stay the same or sometimes drop off a little bit. So we've got the property taxes would not necessarily go up, and we've probably got staff people here that maybe they could speak to the numbers, but people have been pleasantly surprised. And part of the reason for that is, I mean, the county is very strapped to cover urban services, and we have a lot of economies of scale that we can do as a city. Plus, we have some very expensive houses in the city that are helping to subsidize the less expensive houses, and we've got a lot of businesses. Like we've got Seiko Developments putting in Southport, so that allows us to lower our property tax rates really more than the county. I'm not saying that that you're wrong to want to stay in the county, but don't be concerned about hooking up to the sewer, and I think your taxes may actually drop.
What's your model for this city? If you're going to have the same model that Bellevue has, that's not working. That's a mess.
Well, if I
Seattle.
may add one more detail, which is that I don't remember the specifics about the zoning in this case, but typically the zoning that the city would put on the property is less dense than the zoning that the county has on the property, and we're a lot better about enforcing it upon a new development that goes in. So I'd actually invite the staff to speak about it, but what people, especially people that live in the East Plateau, will look at development in the East Plateau and say, wow, this is not what we want. We moved to a rural area. They need to often ask themselves if they're looking at a project that was approved in King County or a project that was approved in Renton, because the Renton projects actually are typically lower density than the projects that were approved by King County. So really moving to the city of Renton will frequently lower the effective density of the project. And maybe we can have Ann speak to it.
Yeah, so the zoning actually is the same. It's R4 in the county, it's R4, it would be R4 in the city. The principal difference is that the county uses what's called gross density. So if you have an acre and it says that it's R4, you're getting 4 houses on there, regardless of any improvements or any critical areas or anything. So you could have a wetland that takes up half an acre, they're still getting 4 houses on that, what's left over that half acre. In the city of Renton, we make you take out those critical areas, we make you take out the right-of-way that would be included, we make you take out any tracks that would have to be set aside, and then what's left, then we apply density to it. So if that wetland were a half acre that took it out, you'd get 2 dwelling units on that is all you would get in the city of Renton. Everything is constrained by critical areas, but certainly the right-of-way would come out, and so you would have a larger lot that would be in existence rather than a smaller lot that you would probably get in the county, as well as the county has a much wider right-of-way requirement, so we're able to better use the land than the county does, really.
Thank you, Angie. Okay, next up we have Alan Nicholson.
Water problem alongside 167. There's a creek down there. I know there's a creek.
So I'm reading a letter on behalf of one of the residents that couldn't be here, Diana Rivera.
County.
And she says that we received notice
That's it. Okay.
announcing a public meeting on 113 regarding the annexation area in Renton, and that contains a parcel of land that we own. We are unable to attend the meeting tonight due to weather conditions, but would like to state that we are in favor of the annexation. And then she gives her parcel number, and it's a signed letter, so. Can I also address the tax issue? Because I've talked to a lot of the residents around there, and that was one of their concerns. So I just went to the GIS website, and you can figure out what the mill rates are for the King County parcels, even the ones that they already own. And then the mill rate is about 0.7%, generally about 0.7% higher in King County than it is when you go, 1 or 2 blocks over and start looking at the mill rates of the properties in the city of Renton. So I just took a few samples, about 5 properties on each side, tried to get similar sized properties with similar sized structures, so that, kind of comparing apples and apples, and at least that was the result I got. And I sent the links to that information to several of the residents, which I don't know if he has an email, but I'd be happy to send it to him too, so. That's it.
Great.
Do you want this for a record? Or?
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, Councilman Coleman.
Yeah, so part of the reason, so I appreciated that commentary, and it lines up with what I'd heard, and part of the reason that we see that is that there's a 1% limit on how much total property tax the city can take in every year over year. And it allows a little bit more where there's new development, but basically it's a 1% cap. But we're seeing home assessments go up by 5%, 10%. We had some years there where they were going up 10, 15% a year, and we have a lot of very expensive homes that are going up quickly. So the city's actually been reducing the tax rate per thousand very steadily over like the last 10 years or something. And so that's where our tax rate ends up being significantly less than the King County tax rate just outside the boundary. So for what it's worth, that's why we're seeing these numbers. But for any individual home, there's people can be part of different districts and water sewer districts and things like that. So it gets a little bit complicated. And then lastly, while I have the floor, I was just going to ask if we could have somebody from staff get back with the first speaker, perhaps, and answer his questions, because I think he left before he got answers. So.
Yes, he did leave his email. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I believe we have one more person signed up to speak, Terry DeFore.
you. I'm actually the applicant, and so nobody shoot, please. We went at this annexation essentially in the beginning with a smaller geographic area, and the mayor requested that we increase the area to what it is now. One of the things I wanted to say is we've done a lot of work with the different homeowners in the area, and we've spoken to most, not all, but we already have on the petition that was submitted, I think 63% of signatures based upon the assessed value. So we went at this in a thoughtful way so that it didn't waste anybody's time, and we wanted to make sure that we had an overall acceptance from people who wanted annexation, and a lot of people do want annexation. So I think it's good for the area, it's good for the city. Sewer and septic tanks will last for 20 years and then they can fail. The church had an issue with theirs some years back. It flooded, backed up, did a lot of damage to one of the lower floors in the church. So having sewer there, if you don't need it, you don't have to pay for it. If you do need it, it's there. I think it's a public safety thing. So we just felt like it was good for the community. So that's why we're here. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak while we're here? Okay, do we have any correspondence?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any discussion by council at this time?
Mr. Mayor,
What's the wish of the council?
I move to close the public hearing.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Corman.
I move that the council adopt the administrative recommendation to authorize circulation of a 60% direct petition to annex, specifying that property owners accept the city zoning and assume their proportional share of the city's existing bonded indebtedness.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt the recommendation. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we're on to administrative report.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Good evening, Council. I just have one item this evening. Obviously, with the weather conditions that we have, we encourage everyone to be safe on the roadways. We do have crews out responding and putting out de-icer on various city streets. The main thing I wanted to share with you was that the City of Renton and Catholic Community Services will be opening the city's severe weather shelter this evening and on Tuesday night. The shelter will be open each day beginning at 8 p.m. and closes the following morning at 7 a.m. REACH, the Renton Ecumenical Association of Churches, serves a warm-up breakfast at that location from 8 a.m. until 10 a.m. The location is at the old Chamber of Commerce building, which is at 300 Rainier Avenue North, and there are two bus routes, number 106 and 107, which stop nearby. All individuals are welcome at this shelter. The severe weather shelter is barrier-free and available for single women and men, couples, and homeless families with children who are living on the streets or in vehicles. Separate sleeping spaces have been prepared based on your gender and family of children's. The SWS will be operated by Catholic Community Services staff, and all who attend must register at the door. As with all shelters, rules for the health and safety of clients, staff, and the broader community apply, and the shelter has a maximum capacity of 30 individuals. If there's additional information that you may be seeking, you can contact the Crisis Clinic at 211, that's 2-1-1, to access shelter information. Or you may contact the City of Renton Human Services Office at 425-430-6600. Be safe. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, next we have audience comment. We do have a few people signed up. Once again, when I call your name, please step up to the podium, give your name and city of residence, and you have 5 minutes. The first is Shane Carlson.
Hello, my name is Shane Carlson, and I live in Seattle, Washington. And I am representing Northwest Seaplanes. We are a tenant on the Renton Airport. Myself personally, I've been on the airport for 32 years, as long as my family business has been in existence. I started out washing airplanes, boxing up fish for our seaplane service. And today I am the Vice President and Director of Operations. As many small businesses, I do many things. Basically, as you guys are well aware, we have our issues on the airport due to the reclassification. And I am requesting on behalf of Northwest Seaplanes to have the city petition the FAA to rescind the reclassification. The airport, obviously this has already been discussed, will more or less eliminate the complexities of A and B and C and D and all those types of things. Our history and basically services on the airport is Northwest Seaplanes provides scheduled and charter seaplane service from the Renton Airport up to British Columbia, fishing lodges up in BC. Our sister company, which is another family business and a sublease to our lease up on the northwest corner of the airport, provides schedule and commuter service to the San Juan Islands. And we also provide aircraft maintenance business on the airport. We have a fleet of 6 aircraft. We maintain about 30 other aircraft, many of which are residents of the airport and our seaplanes. So ultimately, would be a severe impact to our business, along with many other neighboring impacts, to a point of ceasing some sort of our business if this airport master plan and layout plan is put into place, because 70% of the physical space of the seaplane base goes away. And I don't know how you would compare it. It's like a parking spot. If you lost 60% of it, could you park a car there anymore? It would be a loss. Naturally, our flight services would not, the facilities wouldn't be ample to operate, and naturally, other tenants on the airport that support our aircraft maintenance business, along with other ones, would not have any sort of access, which we have unknown effects of what would happen with our seaplane business or maintenance business, but it would decrease significantly. One thing, many of our customers fly into the Seattle airport. They stay in hotels within the city limits. They go to the landing, they eat at restaurants, they purchase things at the local sporting goods store to go up to fishing lodges and or their flights wherever they take. So the city itself would have a loss of revenues, as a good portion of Northwest Seaplanes charter people fly in from out of state, and they have to come in and stay the day before. As well, when they fly home, they end up having to stay another hotel room night. I believe the city, from what numbers I was able to calculate, would be short. The figure, and I'm not going to swear to attest to it, but at the current lease rate, it'd be $280,000 in revenue annually. It'd be a shortfall from the runway setbacks for leased land that we would lose. And ultimately, in our business, the seaplane base was able to stay. The land lease comes in and encroaches on the property, so it doesn't allow for any growth whatsoever over time. So ultimately, again, I'd like to use the term plea to the city council and the city to work with the tenants and the FAA to petition them to go in reverse and change the classification back to where it was. I believe as we've discussed before, the airport's kind of something that's off on the side, and it's been doing its thing, and besides this, everybody seems to be content with it. The change of classification can open up other things and activities on the airport that, have not been embraced by the neighborhoods. So, food for thought, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have Juan Carlos Morales. He left, okay. Diane Polke? I hope I said that right.
Polke, correct. My
Polke.
name is Diane Paholke, Paholke. I live in the city of Renton. I represent ProFlight Aviation, which is a fixed-based operator on the Renton Airport. We have a flight school. We are a fuel supplier. We also provide maintenance, aircraft storage. We have a pilot store, just a little bit about everything. Okay. I also would like to plead with the council to work with the RAC and to go back to the FAA and to get the airport reclassified back to what it originally was. If I look at these plans that are proposals as to what it would look like in the future, the problem that I have is what we're designing to would actually make the airport ineffective for most of the tenants that I've talked to, our own company itself. First off, the elimination of so much of the property to go into a wide taxiway that would carry a 737 full of passengers back and forth. That's what we're designing to. And the problem is that the process that the FAA uses to determine that we had to build that is antiquated. That process is set up so it's assumed that your operations or takeoff and landings of an aircraft are increasing because you're bringing in passenger service or more aircraft. But in fact, in Renton, we have a large takeoff, but no landings. They take them out of here after they're manufactured. So the policy that the FAA has is actually antiquated. Those rules were made 40 years ago. So I would like for the city to go back and say to the FAA, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't apply to this. This actually will ruin our airport and make it ineffective. We were going to have a great, big, beautiful taxiway, but we can't have the airplanes land on the runway because there won't be any ramp space with the vendors anymore to park those big airplanes. So we're essentially going to be building a freeway with no on and off ramps, just a big piece of pavement there, because there's no way for them to land. And the ramp space that the vendors would have that would service customers who fly into the Renton Airport to do business, those kind of things, there's no ramp space for them to go to because it's all in taxiways, and we have to keep that clear. So essentially, it ruins all the business that I have. In addition, in my hangar, I have King County Search and Rescue, their helicopters, and I also have the news helicopters. Now, when the helicopters are put out for the day, so when they get a call, they can take off, they have to be so far away from the building. Otherwise, that wash from those rotor blades is going to ruin your building. And there's rules set up for that by the FAA, okay? But if you bring those taxiways, make them so large, there's no place to put them anymore. So we're essentially making the existing hangars useless for those folks. And therefore, then we reduce in sales in fuel, and the same thing with the seaplane. The seaplane is a huge business for the fuel sales, which generate an income to the airport of so much per gallon. We would lose a lot of that if we lose the seaplane base, or we lose all this ramp space for these airplanes to come in and park. 90% of the corporate jets, or 95% of the corporate jets that we get, I don't know the exact number, are 60 feet or less. And what I mean by 60 feet, that's their wingspan, from wingtip to wingtip, which works just fine with the taxiways that we have now. And Boeing can use those existing taxiways. They've been doing it for years, getting them out of there safely on those. So I would plead with the city also to go back to the FAA and say, this needs to be re-reviewed. We need to come up with a policy of how to make it so that it's in today's kind of market and how it's going to work for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else like to comment at this point? Yes, sir.
Wasn't really planning on this, but, so my name's Ben Bueller, and I represent the Lane Hangar Condo Association. We have 12 hangars, and we have a office and a couple of storage spaces. So to make it real simple, the FAA says the airport does not meet the setbacks anymore, so they need to take 20 feet off of our building. So as our association, we would lose the entire office space, which is an upstairs, downstairs, and we would lose 3 hangars. Now I've got 13 members, so if I lose 3 hangars and an office space, what do I tell these people? That, first of all, that becomes a hardship for the association. Do we tell the people on the end, sorry, you bought the end hangar, or do we have to compensate them and to figure it out? I think you've all seen the diagram, but basically from the north to the south end, we want to go 20 feet in, and whatever's in the way, take it out of the way. Now, when the hangars were built, they were in compliance. It's like if you build a house in 1960, your electrical, nobody had GFIs. You build a house now, you have to have GFIs, but your old houses are grandfathers. The FAA should look at that grandfather clause. There's never been an accident, and let's just say there's a jet careening off the runway. 20 feet is not going to save it. And they go right by the hangar day in and day out. They tow them right by. There's no problem. There are also, if these guys, if they lose their hangars, there's not many hangars. The city of Renton, there's a hangar shortage in the Puget Sound area. So like Diane and everybody else says, we would like to petition the FAA heavily to put the exemption back, not go to this new standard. If you look at Boeing Field, they have over 104 exemptions. Boeing Field, the 2 parallel runways don't meet existing standards of runway separation. So I know this can be done, and I got faith in you guys to have the FAA relook at this and come up with a solution, and hopefully it can stay the way it is now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Corman.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say, since there are so many comments on the airport, that to the people that made comment and anybody watching, that the council earlier tonight agreed to have this topic on our council offsite next month, which is a public meeting. We won't take outside testimony, but like all council conversations, that will be open to the public. I can tell there's an urgency associated with this, and it'd be good to be able to get to it earlier, but as the council, certainly very busy with we need to appoint a new council member and take care of other business at the start of the year, but anyway, so anybody that's interested, that'll be on the topic. And Ms. Perez, I forgot what date that council offsite is.
It's February 28th.
February 28th, so that's probably when the council will be getting to this. Thanks.
Okay. Yes, and today is day 13 for administration, so this is a topic that is on our minds and something that I've asked to be briefed on so that we can fully understand where we're at. I think this is an important issue for our city. We have a very unique situation here. I don't know if there's another small airport in the world that does what this airport does. So it's definitely worth a conversation and continuing to try and work with the tenants and see what we can do. So thank you very much for your testimony. Okay, next we're on to the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Perez.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as published.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as published. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Okay, next we are on to unfinished business. Councilmember Perez.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Gorman.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember McGurven.
Mr. Mayor, are you skipping Councilmember Prince?
Brents. I'm reading my sheet.
Yes, the Finance Committee has committee reports.
Okay, Finance Committee report, King County Parks Property Tax Levy Agreement, Proposition 1. The Finance Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to approve a special King County Parks Property Tax Levy Agreement with King County in consideration of mutual undertakings resulting from the King County Parks Proposition 1 levy approved by voters on August 6, 2019. Funds collected will be distributed to the city through the year 2025. Proceeds can be utilized for open space, natural lands, and urban green space acquisition and capital projects, local trails, capital projects, and other city-identified capital projects in parks or recreational facilities. The committee recommends that the budget be adjusted and proceeds be accounted for in the Capital Improvement Fund 316 separately from the 2013 King County Parks Levy Proposition 1 voter-approved funds. The committee further recommends that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to sign the agreement. This is signed by the committee chair and members.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Prince.
Yes, as I said in finance, we always like it when we receive money, and especially money that's going to do some good. This is from the King County Parks Levy that the voters passed this year. And with that, I move that the council concur with the recommendation of the Finance Committee.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded that the council concurred with the Finance Committee report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Okay, the next report is regarding Capital Project Coordinator Park Planning. The Finance Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to hire the Capital Project Coordinator Park Planning at pay grade A28 Step D. The position is currently budgeted at pay grade A28 Step E. The position was advertised 5 times within 6 months, with 8 applicants submitting resumes in the 5th round. One candidate met all of the qualifications of the position is a licensed landscape architect, has extensive public capital improvement project park design, construction administration, and community engagement experience. This is signed by the committee chair and members.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Prince.
I move the council concur in the recommendation of the Finance Committee.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the council concur with the Finance Committee report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
The next is an agreement with WashDOT. The Finance Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the 2-year Transportation Demand Management Implementation Agreement with the Washington State Department of Transportation that provides a cost reimbursement to the city of $81,271. This is signed by the committee chair and members.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Prince.
Yes, I move that the council concur in the recommendation of the Finance Committee.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded that the council concur with the Finance Committee report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, next is the Gene Coulon Memorial Beach Park Play Equipment Agreement. The Finance Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to approve the agreement with the State Department of Commerce to accept $605,640 in funding for the Gene Coulon Memorial Beach Park Play Equipment Replacement Project. The committee further recommends that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the agreement with the Department of Commerce, signed by the committee chair and members.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Prince.
Yes, so we have not updated our play equipment at Coulon since 2003. Lifespan is typically 15 years, so we're a little bit overdue. This grant from Commerce is going to go a long ways into doing that. With that, I move that the council concur in the recommendation of the Finance Committee.
And I second it.
It's been moved and seconded that the council concur with the Finance Committee report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next report is regarding the Davie Resource Group Incorporated. The Finance Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to approve the 2020 contract agreement with Davie Resource Group Incorporated in the amount of $134,400 for consulting certified arborist inspector services to assist with the Community Services Department Urban Forestry Program Tree Request for Service. This is signed by the committee chair and members.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Prince.
I move that the council concur in the recommendation of the Finance Committee.
Second.
It's been moved in second that the council concur with the Finance Committee report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the final Finance Committee report is regarding a property acquisition for May Creek corridor. The Finance Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to approve the May Creek corridor acquisition and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the purchase and sales agreement. The committee further recommends authorizing use of the Impact Mitigation Fund, Fund 303, to fund the acquisition and transaction costs estimated at $625,000 and adjust the budget as described. Again, signed by the committee chair and members.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Prince.
yes, I move that the council concur in the recommendation of the Finance Committee.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the council concur with the Finance Committee report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Now, Councilmember McGurven.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember O'Halloran.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the Utilities Committee has 2 reports.
Okay, the first report for the Utilities Committee is an agreement with Carollo Engineers. The Utilities Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to execute the agreement with Corolla Engineers in the amount of $299,066 for engineering services for the 2019-2020 sanitary sewer rehabilitation and replacement project. This is signed by the committee chair and member.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember O'Halloran.
I move that the council concur with the recommendation of the Utilities Committee.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the council concur with the Utility Committee report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Right, the final report from Utilities Committee is regarding an agreement with King County Flood Control District. The Utilities Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the agreement with King County Flood Control District to accept $125,000 in grant funds for the Monroe Avenue Northeast Storm System Improvement Project. This is signed by the committee chair and member.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember O'Halloran.
Yes, I'd like to congratulate all the staff that was involved in acquiring this grant, and with that, I'd like to move that council concur with the recommendation of the Utilities Committee.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the council concur with the Utility Committee report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. We have no legislation, and we are on to new business. Councilmember Perez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There will be no meetings on January 20th, Monday, January 20th, because we are celebrating Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. And on Monday, January 27th at 6 p.m., we will have the Committee of the Whole in the Conference Center, and there are 3 items in the agenda: Community Service Levy Spending Update, Federal and Regional Legislative Affairs Agenda, and Emerging Issues. That will be it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Corman.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to announce a Planning and Development Committee meeting for January 27th. That's Monday. In the council conference room at 5:30 p.m. And there's a small change from the written paperwork we have in front of us. There's just 3 items on the agenda. The first is a 2020 CED work program. The second item is Parks, Recreation, and Natural Areas Plan. And the third item is emerging issues in CED. We'll be taking up affordable housing at a later meeting. And that's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Prince.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the Finance Committee is meeting on Monday, January 27th at 5 p.m. in the council conference room. We have 3 items on the agenda: Sunset Oaks fee waiver request, vouchers, and emerging issues in finance. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember McGurven.
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember O'Halloran.
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Van.
Finally. No new business or unfinished business.
No new business.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the wish of the council?
Move we adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.